I'm Dr. Dan talking to you from Vitamin Pro, and we're discussing a little bit about trans fats. I'm going to try to make this simple. You know, it's been in the news. FDA is talking about taking these out of, getting it out of our food supply within the next 4 or 5 years or so. And so, is this important? Should you care? And let me explain. So, what is a fat in the first place? A fat is basically a long carbon chain. Carbon hooked to carbon with an oxygen on there. In different positions depending on what the fat is. Now, sometimes you have a single bond between these carbons, sometimes it's a double bond. If it's a single bond, the carbon chain can swivel around in a 360 configuration, and if there's a double bond, it locks it into a very specific configuration. So, there are two types of configurations that you can get from a double bond in that long carbon chain. One is called a cis, and the other is called a trans. So a cis fat is the kind that's normally found in nature. That's what you're going to find in your olive oil, avocados, and things like that. Now, a trans fat means that it's in an opposite configuration, and these double bonds lock things into that position, so things can't rotate into a cis to a trans, trans to a cis. So a trans fat is a trans fat, and a cis is a cis fat. So why is it important? Because these trans fats are not found in nature, there aren't any real good enzymes to break them down. So bacteria, molds, fungus, these kind of things that would normally be in your food and of course cause your bread to go bad in a couple of days, they can't break them down. And food goes bad because the microorganisms are breaking it down for their own use. So if you have a can of Crisco that's been sitting on your shelf for 10 years, you can still use it. It's still like it was when it was made because the bacteria can't break that down. So what does that mean to you and me? When you eat a trans fat, your body can't properly break that down either and to turn it into the kind of fat that it needs. And so these trans fats get incorporated into your cell membranes as they are, and because the configuration is opposite that of a normal cis fat, you're going to have an abnormal cell membrane configuration. That means that you can't control well what goes in and what goes out. Your heart's not going to beat as strongly. Your neurons aren't going to transmit signals as readily. So you're going to end up with all these different issues because of these getting incorporated into the cell membrane. So, if you chart heart disease over the last century, you'll notice that the increase in heart disease correlates pretty nicely with the increase in trans fats in our diet. So thousands and thousands of studies have been published about this. Researchers know about it. Any decent clinician worth his salt understands that trans fats are killers. And now the FDA is getting on board. And I think it's way past time for them to do that. They should have done this 35, 40 years ago. So anyway, you have a choice. Avoid trans fats, read labels, don't eat this stuff because, there's no reason to wait for the FDA to take it out. You need to get it out of your diet right now if you care about your health at all. So that's trans fats from Vitamin Pro. So thanks a lot for listening.